You're listening to the RE Social Podcast with your hosts, Andrew and Vince from OnV Invest. For more information, go to onvinvest.com.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of RE Social Podcast. Today, we have a super special two guests. Have you ever had two people before?
What's better than one guest?
Two
guests.
We have Amanda and David. I met them at the RPM Raising Private Capital with Amy Majuri. Welcome to the show, guys.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
I know we like to meet. I know a lot of people in the industry, especially local. I know that this one, Drew is going to be very curious because he runs the operations for our business and you guys are like killing it. So for people who don't know, can you guys give like a 90-second intro? Like, what do you guys do?
Yeah, definitely. Would love to. Well, first off, thanks for having us. It's an honor to be here. But I'm David. This is my lovely, amazing, and beautiful wife, Amanda. We're real estate investors based out of Joshua Tree, Yucca Valley, California. We're essentially products of the American dream. Both of our families came here from different countries. Amanda's family came from Mexico. My family came from Mexico as well, with the idea to give their families a better life. And so we firmly believe that it's this idea of us being products of the American dream. That's why we strive to work so hard. That's why we have such a large drive to grow our wealth and to ultimately provide a better life for our children and our children's children. So we started off in corporate America, just like everyone else. Being families of immigrants, education was important, right? Going to school was huge for us. Go to school. Get a job. And that's exactly what we did. Both of us have master's degree. I had a little bit of fun in the beginning, so it took me a while to get serious and get my degrees done. But eventually I got a degree in anthropology and then a master's in archaeology. Amanda got a master's in business. And even though we were working in corporate jobs, we were, quote unquote, using our degree, as they say, it wasn't enough. We still didn't have assets. We still didn't have our own house. And it wasn't until Amanda actually got laid off from her previous company that we started looking into real estate investing. So we officially started investing in real estate at the very end of 2019. We established our company, and then we got our first deal done in April of 2020. And we've been full-time real estate investors ever since. We specialize in the short-term rental hospitality industry. We have 4 short-term rentals in our portfolio right now. We just launched a 10-key boutique hotel in downtown Palm Springs, and we're in the process of acquiring more short-term rentals and boutique hotels.
And are they all in Joshua Tree?
Our 4 short-term rentals are in Joshua Tree. Yes, we're building another one for a client near Sedona, Arizona. And then our boutique hotel is in Palm Springs, California.
That's awesome, man. So, when you said you started in 2018 or 2020?
2019, we officially started our company, and we didn't get our first deal done until 2020. So since then, we've now established a $6.8 million real estate portfolio across our 4 houses and then the 10-key boutique hotel.
That's awesome, man. I want to dig into that. But first, I wanted to start with, our timelines are very similar. Drew and I actually started in 2018. We bought one triplex in Bakersfield. Then we bought the second one in 2019. And basically, we bought everything else during the same timeline as you guys. But I wanted to ask you, how did you have the knowledge or confidence, both of you, anyone can answer, to start at the worst time what everybody was telling you, this is the worst time to buy anything, you are a moron? I'm sure people told you that.
Oh, yeah. You want to answer this?
Yeah. So, we started just as the pandemic was hitting and everyone was in sort of a freeze mode, right? We had people saying, don't buy, don't do anything, don't invest. We had Oscar, which is our third business partner, by the way, and he's my brother. We had just left corporate America. We were in this full time and everyone was saying, don't buy, everything's going to crash. And we had no choice but to invest anyway. So we just went for it. I mean, there were agents who said, I can't believe you're still making offers. This is really incredible. So at the time, we just had really no choice but to try to make it work. And we're glad we did. As you know, 2021, 2022 was, a massive boom for real estate. And we were in the right place at the right time. And not just that, we're really big believers in mentorship and getting formal guidance. So we probably spent like 6 figures on masterminds and real estate education. So those are the I guess the different guidebooks that gave us the confidence to invest, even at a time when things were really uncertain?
Yeah, for me, that's really kind of like a two-part question. So in the beginning, it was a little bit, we were naive, like we don't know. So since we were so new within real estate, everything was an opportunity for us at that point. We hadn't come from this, 3, 4, 5 year bull market. We hadn't been in that yet. So we were just like shiny object syndrome, like kids in a candy store. So for us, it was all a huge learning opportunity. And we went in there with the mindset of making it work. It was never like, well, if we try this real estate thing and maybe we can, that was never on our mind. Our mind was always, we're going to make this work. How do we figure this out? How can we figure this out? Who's going to help us figure it out?
Okay, that's good. So, can you guys talk about the first deal that you did buy? And
Yeah.
also, before that, did you, Amanda mentioned that you dropped 6 figures in education. Was that before the first deal?
That was throughout the last since we started investing. So over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been in, I don't know, maybe a handful of masterminds now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, and then were you part of any mastermind before you bought the first deal?
We started a real estate education program in like 2019. That's how we got into real estate.
Okay.
And we spent all of 2020 learning the curriculum, attending coaching calls. And that's when we finally felt the confidence to get into our first deal, which we can dive into if you want.
Yeah, we joined, it's called Fortune Builders at the time.
Oh, I love Fortune Builders.
Yeah, we're all Fortune Builder students.
We're originally Fortune Builder students. We didn't have the cash to drop on Fortune Builders, a $50,000 program when we first looked into it. But luckily, we applied for no interest credit cards at 15 months, and that's essentially the loan we used to buy into Fortune Builders. So we had 15 months and no interest to make something happen, and we sold our first flip on month 14 and made a nice little killing. You want to tell them the story of how we got our first flip done?
Yeah, let's get into our first deal. So it was fall of 2020, and we were just sending out offers after offers, trying to get our first deal in. Our first flip actually came from someone that I knew, a former coworker of mine, who was selling her rental property in Joshua Tree. This is actually how we ended up in this market. It wasn't the original plan, but we ended up in this market, ended up staying out here. But she let us know that she was selling all of her property in California. She wanted to sell her rental property. And at the time, Joshua Tree was just starting to take off. So we got it under contract, actually seller financing, which is really incredible. We pulled from my IRA to fund the rehab, and we did a 3-month flip. We sold it to what ended up being a short-term rental investor. I think we made like $130,000 on that deal in 3 months. So that's what really opened our eyes to, number one, like, look at real estate can do for us. Number two, what's going on in Joshua Tree? Why did we get $60K over asking? There's something going on here. And that's what really had us investigate more in the market, what's going on out here, why it was booming, and why short-term rental investors we're buying up like crazy. So we ended up building a business model around this market, creating these beautiful properties that are tailored to short-term rental investors, so that they're pretty much turnkey and ready to go when they buy these properties and get launched immediately after.
Yeah, I think that's a huge factor for us. Was we knew who our target customer was. We knew who the target end buyer was going to be, and that was a short-term rental investor. So in the house flipping world, we were taught, don't do landscaping, just get the house ready to go, compete with the comps, and then the next buyer is going to do the landscaping. Well, we took it a step further, and we threw some amenities in the backyard. We put a nice pergola back there. We put some string lights, a cowboy tub, and a smart lock on the door. So those few things right away separated us from the rest of the houses that were on the market, which is why we had a flood of short-term rental investors make offers, and eventually, a short-term rental investor ended up purchasing a home.
And you made 130 clean. That's after repairs and all that.
Yeah, dude, we bought it for 205. We put about 55K into it. We listed it for 330 and sold for 410.
That's great.
Damn.
Yeah, and it happened to be right there with that push where the rates were super low and everyone's like, I'll name my firstborn after you if you.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a crazy time, dude. But we were watching the market and we were saying, like, wait, what is this Airbnb thing? Like, we had stayed in Airbnbs before, but in my opinion, real estate and hospitality weren't so infused at that point. It was kind of like some folks were doing, Airbnbs over here, and a majority of folks were investing in real estate, right? So it was pretty cool. We just kept an eye on the market, we kept an eye on the trends, and we rode that wave.
That's great.
I know you guys said it was a seller finance deal. Where'd you guys get the 55K from?
At the time, we pulled from my IRA.
Oh, okay.
And this was before we really learned how to raise private capital. And after that, it was pretty much private money just to gap all of our deals. But at the time, we just pulled from the IRA.
Yeah, that's cool. And then, so that was the first deal. And then what happened after that? Did you guys, I feel like this is good. Feel like your gears were turning, and did you start thinking, wait, should we hold these, or like, should we keep doing flip? Did that already go across your mind or not yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were primarily doing fix and flip, selling these deals, like burning and churning, right? And at some point we're thinking to ourselves, wait a minute, interest rates are low. These properties are going well over asking. We're getting multiple offers. We should be keeping some of these for ourselves. Maybe we should get into the short-term rental game. After all, for us, fix and flip was a form of raising capital to buy and hold properties and build that long-term wealth. So at some point we just said, hey, we should probably start holding on to some of these properties, pick out our best ones and sell the rest. And that's when we started to, instead shift over to a buy and hold model, and then still continue to sell a few on the side. It was absolutely top of mind. And we're so happy we did it, because it makes a lot of sense now. And looking back, I wish we held on to more, but we have 4 that we kept in our portfolio.
Everyone says that, right? I wish we would have held on to more, man, back in the day, But for us, dudes, it was interesting because we were so new in real estate. And so everything that we had been learning from our mentors and coaches and everything that we had been reading was like, okay, you start off in your niche, and then eventually you get enough capital to start holding on to these properties. And then eventually you get into commercial, right? So it seemed like there was this natural progression that all real estate investors would take. And so for us, the idea of like holding on to property seemed so far away from us at the time because we were so new. So we were like, well, we know this is what we want to do. How can we do it? Like, how do we figure it out? And for us, private money, OPM, that was the key for really figuring it out and being able to scale.
And how long did it take? How many projects or months did it take for you to go from flipping to buying your first investment deal or buy and hold?
I would say that was probably about a year.
Okay.
Our first property that we ended up converting to short-term rental, the plan was actually to flip it and sell it.
Mm-hmm.
So we acquired that, I think, in early 2021. And when we decided to shift over to a short-term rental model, we worked on it pretty much all year long, and then we launched it, I think, January of the following year.
Yeah.
So simultaneously working on some other fix and flip projects, but that was the first one where we decided, hey, we're going to start to shift over, start to handpick a few to keep in our model. So just over a few months, I think it just naturally happened because these were properties that we already had acquired, and they were part of our portfolio as part of our fix and flip strategy. So we just decided to hold on to them and refinance and kind of go through that a little bit of different exit strategy, but we picked the ones that really worked for us.
What was the deciding factor? Was it merely just timing, or was it like, wow, this is the one I want to keep? Like, what was the deciding factor?
We kind of fell in love with the property. I know you shouldn't, and we should be, think of our investments very objectively, right? But we saw the potential that this place had. It's such a cool, unique place in Joshua Tree. It was on 2.5 acres. It had a very unique Spanish design. It was a newer property. So from what we had been learning about the short-term rental space, this property ticked all of the boxes. Like it was just spectacular. And so we ended up hiring a designer, and we began consulting with her, and we realized like this place place is going to be really special. And we saw what other short-term rentals, what other Airbnbs were doing in that area, and the cash flow is insane. So in addition to us liking the property and really loving it and being proud of our work, we knew what we could potentially make from it. So it was a no-brainer for us to want to keep that one and have that one as our flagship. That property is actually an international award-winning vacation rental. It won the 2022 International Vacation Home Staging Design Award. So pretty cool.
What was the first year gross that we did?
I believe it was just under $120,000 in gross revenue in the first year. And then this year we're on track to do close to $140,000 in gross revenue for one property alone.
And then what is like the expenses on that property?
It's pretty pricey to run. The expenses last month, I want to say, were about $4,000, including our PITI, mortgage, supplies, all that good stuff. And we cash flowed. We ended up netting, I believe, it was close to $7,000 or $8,000 last month on that one property. So it was our most amazing month yet.
But that's pretty good. I mean, you're still clearing like 50 grand a year easily.
Oh, off this one, yeah.
And that's not even including tax benefits and mortgage pay down too.
Right.
How much did you put as a down payment? Was it 20%, 25%?
So we acquired that property with hard money and private. We gapped it with private money.
Okay.
So we ended up refinancing, and we left a little bit of cash in the deal. We left a little cash in our deal from our private money lender.
Mm-hmm.
But so we ended up refining, getting a lot of that back through the value add. It worked out for us, but we still had to spend a little bit of money getting it set up, furniture, decor, and all that. So we put about another like 30 grand in after that. And I mean, it's been well worth it, as you can see.
That's awesome.
Did you guys pull all of the money out when you did the refinance? Or
we pulled most of it out. Yeah, we pulled most of it out. So because at the time when we acquired it, we planned to sell it and flip it. The plan wasn't to BRRRR it, right? So we would have structured it that way if we could up front, but we changed strategies. But we ended up working out really, really well for us. We actually very successfully BRRRRed another property. I think, Andrew, you were just looking at Jackalope Cabin. That's the one that we talked about in our case study at the conference. And that one we BRRRRed and got all of our money back and a little cash in our pocket. So it was like the perfect BRRRR we could have done.
Infinite returns. Yeah. It's wild. The idea of infinite returns, it's such a cool concept.
Yep. Love it. Yeah. And the power of OPM. Yeah. That's cool.
Most definitely.
So you bought that first deal all cash with the intent of flipping it, decided to keep it, fixed it all up and refied and paid everyone back, except for I think you kept a little bit in the deal with some private money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Yep.
And how this is one house?
One house.
How many bedrooms and bathrooms?
It's officially 2 beds plus a den and 2 bathrooms. So it only sleeps 6, which is crazy too, because from everything we were learning, it was like heads and beds. You need to get as many people as your Airbnb as you possibly can. But in Joshua Tree, there was a few properties who flipped that model completely. And so there was these big, beautiful homes with very little people in them, 2 persons per bedroom. And so it's a different kind of feel. It's a different experience. Again, we knew who our target customer was going to be, who our target end buyer was going to be. And we didn't want to appeal to a bunch of dudes coming to Joshua Tree to just have fun. We wanted to appeal to a little bit of an elevated crowd. I don't like calling our properties luxury because they're not luxury. They're very nice, but I don't consider them, the luxury space. But we knew who we wanted to market to, and that was an international crowd, a crowd that has a higher net worth, right? So that's why we went with the lower occupancy. So it sleeps 6, despite it being a 1,500 square foot house. It only sleeps 6.
That is insane that you're making that kind of income on a 2-bed. I'm like upset right now. Teach me your ways. What'd you spend on like furniture and design, like after the rehab? What was that? Like the designer and everything? Because we're actually for the first time, or we're in escrow right now, for the first time for which will be our, what is this now? 10th and 11th unit. It's a duplex essentially. We're actually discussing with a designer, budget and all of that. Because with this particular rental, I want to go in a higher end market and then more of a, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I do want kind of a more luxury feel. And fortunately, the way it's already been renovated, it's already kind of like the foundation is there, minus a couple of little fixes, of course. But what recommendations might you give me? I'm kind of just trying to figure out like budget wise, like how do you, I don't know. Give me some freebies.
Yeah.
It's a good stuff right here.
I'll start, and then if you want to fill it up,
For sure.
congratulations, by the way, super exciting.
Very
That's
exciting.
amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
So we've been tracking our setup costs on these different properties, and on the low end, it's about $15 a square foot for furniture, decor, supplies, security technology. And then on the high end, we're like $20 a square foot. So it might be north of that for you on a luxury property, right? That's kind of where we're tracking, is about $20 a square foot. As far as design goes, it just depends on what designer you're working with and how they charge. If it's a flat rate per square foot or per hour. We paid our designer per hour. I don't have those numbers in front of us, but as far as setup goes, we were spending about $20 a square foot on that property. So we put quite a bit into the decor and the furniture, but again, aiming for that more elevated feel, and it really paid off.
And you could get away with doing, $10 to $12 a square foot, right? But you're going to get furniture that is aligned, in accordance with that. And that furniture is probably going to break really fast. And so if you want to go for this luxury market, then everything matters. The couch that people are sitting on, the way that the chairs feel when you scoot the chair up, right? Like all these little nuances add to the overall experience of the property. And people know, right away if you're sitting on something, whether it's from Wayfair or whether you got it from, something like Pottery Barn or West Elm or something like that. Mm-hmm. So we actually utilize Host GPO. We're not sponsored by them or anything like that. We've just worked with them in the past and it's been amazing. And Host GPO. So essentially they offer wholesale discounts. You sign up with them, memberships are typically free, and then you get wholesale discounts through them. And if you spend a certain amount, I believe it's $15,000 with them, then they actually provide extra services to help you design your short-term rental, to help order everything, to track everything. And they even have a white glove service. Well, they'll come in and they'll install all of your furniture. They'll take away all of the trash, which is incredible because one thing about short-term rentals is they generate so much freaking trash, like between the headboards, the mattresses, all the artwork that you're buying, like everything. There's just a lot of trash. So Host GPO is phenomenal because, like I said, you can have a consultant who works with you and it takes a lot of the work off of your plate.
That's a huge pro tip because you're getting access to major brands like Pottery Barn, West Elm, Brook Linens, all of the top suppliers, Article, and you're getting 30 to 50% off, which is insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we drop 15 grand per door. Easy.
Yeah. So sign up. We're huge fans. They sell, you can get anything from the large furniture down to the tiny little soaps and supplies that you need, all at home.
Really? So everything from, do you guys do all your buying from that particular source or?
Majority,
not a lot of it. Not everything.
Yeah, majority that and Amazon. We have our lists with Host GPO. We have our list with Amazon. There's a few other companies that do the same. Wayfair actually does the same. I believe with Wayfair you have to spend over $25,000 or $20,000. And then there's another company called Minoan, and they do the same, very similar to Host GPO, where they offer wholesale discounts from everything from towels to soaps to your couches.
How do you spell that?
Minoan is MINOAN, and then Host GPO, just the letters GPO. Mm-hmm. They're phenomenal, guys.
Cool pro tip. Thank you very much. Yeah.
You're welcome.
That's insane. And is that how you're able to keep it down to around 15, 20 per square foot or?
Well, yeah, because good furniture is not cheap and they usually have long lead times. So we learned very quick, if you buy cheap furniture, you're replacing it in 6 to 8 months. So Host GPO lets us access high quality, sometimes contract grade furniture for a reduced price, and it's well worth the investment. It's going to last you so much longer. So we get a lot of our furniture from there and a lot of our supplies and goods. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. I really appreciate that pro tip. That's huge.
Yeah, and
of
anything
course.
else you need, Andrew, you have questions about where to get a hot tub, what hot tub company works best or whatever. Happy to be a resource for y'all. More than happy.
You guys are located in IE. Where do you guys live?
And we're actually based out of Joshua Tree, Yucca Valley area, originally from Pasadena, LA, but now we're based out of Joshua Tree, Yucca Valley.
Yeah, man. Next time you guys come swing by Orange County, we got a bunch of stuff here. So we'll show you what we got going on. And we have some properties in San Bernardino Valley. What have we got? Mentone. We got like 4 units.
Yep. We got we had a duplex in Mentone that we purchased, and then just had inherited just the worst tenants, if I'm being honest. Kind of had to really not remodel, but we really had to redo. Actually, we did remodel the bathroom. Anyways, we really had to, take the bull by the horn, spent some money to make some money, if you will. That back unit is now doing very, very well. I was kind of nervous. 31-day plus stays. Like, here we go. I hope this works out. Trying to figure out that price point. Got a great guest in there paying more than I was expecting. And we're going to plan on doing the front unit as well. We currently have a squatter in there. Full disclosure. Yeah, right. And yeah, it is what it is. I always like to tell everybody, like, hey, real estate has changed my life for the better by far. Like in the past 5 years, like I'm not even in the same planet. Which, I'm super stoked. And I got to thank Vince, of course. He really helped lead the helm. He's just such a psycho for real estate. And I just have to deal with the management and all that. So my life is not that bad. But point is it's changed my game. But I love to talk about the woes. And we like to joke that we've had a squatter since we started. Not the same one. Because everyone's jaw drops. They're like, what? I'm like, not the same squatter. But yeah, since we started. And we're getting smarter with that. But point is we're planning on getting them out here in the next month. Thank God. And we're going to get in there and do the same thing. And we're going to turn what was a bleeding source into what I think is going to be our most profitable property to date. So
fantastic. So are you doing furnished finders on the 31 plus?
Yeah, I did Furnish Finder, I did Craigslist even, I did a couple other, and then I'm most familiar with Airbnb. That's kind of how I market even my coaching, which is I'm an Airbnb coach. Because it's just, it's you get it. It's like the Kleenex of that world. So everyone kind of just knows it. It's got a sex appeal to it. Anyways, but I was actually trying these other platforms, and believe it or not, on Airbnb, boom, got sucked up pretty fast. They booked all the way from May 1st till August 19th.
Wow.
I was like, I landed the plane. I was so nervous, but yeah, it worked out because it's an area that I didn't know. It's Mentone. So I'm like, is there a market? If you don't live in that area, you're going to be like, you guys are probably already thinking, wait, where's Mentone though? Like, what is that? And I'm like, it's think Redlands and then more outside in nowhere. It's like that town before the mountains.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
Not to talk about me, this is about you guys, but
no.
I mean, it's been great, and the medium and short term has really helped us to kind of change up the cash flow game for us. It's always been very tight. We look great on paper. We've already done enough to change our families' lives, which I'm super grateful for. But as a business owner, I really am wanting the best of both worlds. And I try not to even look at it as like, okay, well, there's appreciation and tax write-offs. I try to just shove that to the side and purely look at the cash flow. So to hear you guys doing on a 2-bed, 1-bath, I got to go, 2-bed, 2-bath. I got to go back to that and like, bravo. So do you think the way you guys were able to really get that is because you just went so high end and so just like next level with your designs and your accommodations and probably the great mattresses? Like, what are you spending on mattresses? Like, what's happening?
GPO they have hospitality grade mattresses that are only sold B2B, and you have access to them through Host GPO. FYI, that's a big plug. At the time, they didn't have them, but we buy Lucid mattresses, which are actually not expensive. You can buy them on Amazon or on Lucid, and we get reviews on them all the time. People love them. You don't need to spend a crazy amount. But yes, we knew up front that we were going to have to spend a lot more money than anticipated on this property to get it to the level that we wanted. Yeah. And it absolutely paid off. So everything in that house is pretty much custom. We had our business partner, Oscar, sourcing sconces from Morocco, right? Like it was so custom.
That's
and
cool.
we added a beautiful custom metal front door. It was all part of the whole vision that our designer helped us execute on, but we had to spend a lot more money than, for example, if we planned to just flip it and sell it. We knew that up front, but we also knew exactly what we were going for.
Yeah.
Sorry, go for it.
I was just going to say real quick, we're pretty ambitious, right? And so we pulled a page from the flipping world with our comps. So we knew, okay, these are the target average daily rates we want to shoot for. These are the properties that are getting those rates. How can we perform better than these properties? How can we look better than these properties? So we were constantly looking at comps, and new comps were constantly coming out. We were saying, oh, these people are doing this and these people are doing this. So how can we make it even better? But that's because that was the standard in our market. Joshua Tree historically has been a very impoverished neighborhood, but with these Airbnbs and short-term rentals and with the national park, there's some absolutely stunning rentals out here. So we had to step it up. We're working with a client near Sedona, Arizona, and a lot of those properties are kind of like what Joshua Tree was 4 or 5 years ago, a little bit dated, a little bit kind of, grandma's furniture, just a little bit older cabinets, older design. So you don't necessarily have to over design in that market. We just know we have to beat the comps. We have to offer a far better experience than the comps are offering.
Just to wrap what you're saying for anyone listening, this is how I'm downloading this. You guys realize the simplicity of business. When you truly understand the business, it's very simple. Just under promise, over deliver. Like just crank out, like beat out everybody in terms of the value you're offering. And that's so great. It sounds to me like that's what you guys did. You just reached for that. And now here's the sweet part, that it's a psychology thing and maybe just a business thing. I don't know, that most people don't know unless they've been in business for a long time. Have you thought about investing in real estate and taking advantage of all of those benefits without any of the work? That is something that OnV Invest not only provides, but has been providing since its inception. With friends and family, we have built an empire and a system of a wealth generating tool that is giving us and our friends and family that leverage in their life to create true wealth. Go to onvinvest.com for more to see if you qualify. And thanks for listening. Most people don't know unless they've been in business for a long time. For me, as a guitar teacher years ago, to running businesses that I have now with Airbnbs, and I still have a music school, I actually always tend to price a little higher. I have a VA, and I told them, hey, make sure you're going into our price labs and you're actually going a little above the recommended, because it changes the daily, keeps you fresh on SEO. It's a pro tip for everyone listening. Price labs is a game changer. It's why we stay booked. But I'm always saying, cool, take that number and bring it up by 5-10%. Let's play with it. Let's see and here's why. Every time I've gone down in my price and I got desperate as a guitar teacher, as a Airbnb host, as a teacher, I would always attract those clients who weren't really ready to put in the work or would complain about, every little thing and any little, whatever. And then with the Airbnb guests, the first time I was like, oh, well, let's just see what this is. And I lowered it. Like I really wanted to get a booking or whatever it was. Sure enough, they trashed the place. Trashed it. There was like a bong broken in this plastic or paper bag on the kitchen counter and just like shredded toilet paper everywhere. They had like created like I don't even know what, I don't smoke weed, but it looked like they were smoking through the pillowcase. It was like black in one corner. Anyways.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I was so mad because I personally built a lot of the stuff in there, like put all of my soul into it for 2 weeks. And so just to see it just disrespected, my cleaner was like, hey, it's not a big deal. We got this. And she was amazing. But I was like emotionally invested. Right. So I was like, how dare you? But I remembered, you know what? That was my bad. That was on I forgot. You got to charge a little extra. You just tend to find those people who are willing to pay a little more, have a great stay, obviously deliver on it, but you are going to tend to attract those people who just stay, they check in, they check out, leave you a 5-star, and you never hear from them again until they want to book again. And that's like the dream. So the fact that you guys had the vision to know that and to know that's your target and then go for it and then be okay with like that risk of spending the extra dollar to deliver on it is awesome. I love these kind of success stories.
Thank you, bro. Thank
so
you.
much.
And it's paid off. The average occupancy rate in Joshua Tree is now 60%, I believe, 61%. Our rentals right now are performing at an average of 84%. And
Wow.
that's going into our low season, which is the summertime. It's hot as hell out here in the desert. And so like I said, we're at an 80, like low to mid 80s right now.
Wow.
So we're continuously outperforming the competition because of that.
That's amazing. I cannot wait to snoop and look at all your listings and just try to steal what you got going on, man. But I do hear Joshua Tree. I don't know where I heard this from, but I've heard it from a couple different sources now. I hear it's getting saturated. And what's going on with that? Can you comment on that?
Yeah, it's funny because I hear that about mostly every market that I talk to folks who are interested in short-term rental.
Fair point.
I think what it really means is you just have to be better. That there's a huge demand in these markets. So in Joshua Tree, there's a huge demand. Big Bear, California is another one, right? And I'm guilty of it too. I'm like, oh, dude, market saturation. I think what's really just happening is people are everyone knows about Airbnb. Everyone knows about short-term rentals now. Now it's an actual option, right? Historically, you had two options. You had hotels or you had Airbnbs, right? And so I think what's happening is people are saying the market's getting saturated because you have poor performing operators. You have people who do not invest in design. You have people who do not think of who my target customer is. Who do I really want renting my property? You have people that maybe they have a W-2 and they heard on a podcast or they heard somewhere on an Instagram story that you can offset a bunch of your income by having a short-term rental. So really, we had a flood of these types of people enter into the market, enter into Joshua Tree, and pretty much every other market that I talk to about people who are interested in short-term rentals. So I think what's happening is a lot of people are starting to get freaked out. A lot of people are starting to lower their prices, like we just talked about, because of the sheer number of listings that are popping up. But in my opinion, it's totally okay, because the individuals like us, like you guys, who treat this like a business, who have systems in place, who have operations in place, who that leads to consistency in your rental and the overall experience that you offer, then you're still going to outperform the competition, just like we're doing now. Now, obviously, it's not a guaranteed. I'm not saying, yeah, guaranteed, you just got to do this, this, and this, and you'll be good. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But there is a formula that you could follow. There are methods that you can follow to continuously outperform your competition, even in markets that are quote unquote saturated. And then lastly, there's always the seasonality piece, right? There's variability in occupancy rates among all markets. I mean, I think there's a few metro markets I know of that I study that have very high occupancy rates year round. But with metro markets, right, regulations could change at any second. And then all of a sudden you lose your listing, like what happened in New York City, where they lost 10,000 Airbnb listings. So yes, there is this idea of saturation. Yes, there is this big rush towards short-term rentals, but I don't think it's a bad thing, like I said, because as long as we're doing what we do and we do what we can to operate a legitimate business, to operate a high-performing business, then we should be putting systems in place to constantly stay ahead of the competition. So with our rentals, we're constantly evolving. So even though we started off appealing to this more luxurious type client, an international style client, I recently just added high chairs. I recently added a pack and play crib. I recently added baby toys, baby cutlery, baby plates, so that now we could appeal to families. Because I did notice a little bit dip in our occupancy rate, we quickly pivoted and I quickly added more amenities to continue to draw more people into our rentals.
That's great.
I'm really quick on the topic of demand. If you guys looked at the 2023 Outlook report from AirDNA, even though the revenue at the average national revenue and occupancy has gone down, it's still up from pre-pandemic levels. And it's gone up from pre-pandemic levels, and demand is still growing. It's trending upward over the next few years. So again, the pandemic was such a big anomaly, but still the demand is outpacing It's basically outpacing the number of listings coming on the market. Again, every market is very, very different, but overall, we're still seeing a positive trend in demand versus supply in the market.
Yeah, so it's essentially saturated with terrible hosts.
Soundbite.
And the hosts that are
Great for us.
Well, no, you guys are going to be good, man. The hosts that are doing well, ideally, you should still have a successful, profitable business. It's a method you follow.
1,000%. Yeah, and I think a lot of the money, a lot of the big changes and big jumps people's lives in terms of business is always in those like, oh, it's a downturn, or oh, it's saturated. Our last guest just literally had that like nice little quote for her. That's so great what you just said, though, man. And that's something that I had kind of echoed to Vince a little while back. It's like, dude, it's crazy sad how many listings around our listings are still listed with a cell phone photo. It's like, I was really not concerned at all taking these risks and launching our listings, despite, a year ago is when we started, by the way, which is crazy, last March.
Wow.
So there's all that talk of saturation and regulation, and there's all these challenges now. And I was like, cool, I'll just make sure that I am over delivering and I'll be just fine. And then assessing the competition, I did the same thing where I actually would skip AirDNA altogether. And I do the nitty gritty work of like, all right, well, let's just peel it open and look at it as a guest. And in fact, I myself purposely don't stay in hotels when I travel. I'll go into an Airbnb, usually something about moderately priced, I guess in the middle, if you will, and just see what's going on. And I will tell you something that's very interesting. Maybe I'm not like splurging a lot to get those high-end luxury stays. Maybe it would be a different experience. I don't know. But in my travels for the past year, I've noticed that the communication level of hosts has been about a 0%.
Wow. What do you mean?
0%.
Do you mean the host is not responsive to you?
Not responsive.
Oh my God.
Besides like a little automated like message or whatever, like a canned something.
Yeah.
Non-responsive.
Oh my gosh. I've heard that too. And I've heard that especially with, there's a few key players in the property management space that have a national reach, right? These huge players. And I've heard that with those, with people who stay at rentals that are managed by those people. But now I'm starting to hear it from people, just average everyday hosts who manage rentals. And for me, it's such a scary thing because if an outside person or just like a regular individual off the street books an Airbnb for maybe the first time or the second time, and they have that type of experience, they're going to think Airbnb sucks. They're going to think every time I stay in Airbnb, it's going to be like this. So there's a lack of consistency. And that's where the hotel space has us beat. Because when you stay at a Holiday Inn, when you stay at a Marriott, when you stay at a Hyatt, you know exactly what you're going to get. It may not be the nicest place. It may be tired and outdated, but you know that it's consistent. And so when I hear of hosts like this, I'm like, oh, do better, y'all. Like, please do better. Call me. I will help you become a better host. Because for me, I take this personal because every time, I believe TJ Tajani said this, he said, every time we lose a guest to a hotel, we've lost them forever. Like once someone decides, you know what, Airbnb sucks, I've had too many bad experiences, that's it. We've lost them. And that's a collective disservice to every host out there.
1,000%. Yeah, man. And that's something that I've really noticed is it's like with all things. This sounds very cynical, but I'm just going to state it as someone who's about to be 37 and have been running my own business since I was like 8. I was literally like selling drawings, like coming home with my mom's like, "Are you bullying kids?" By the way, I'm a $160 soaking wet as a grown ass man right now. I was never a big kid, so I'm like, "Mom, you think I'm bullying kids?" I was like really confused. Like, yeah, how are you coming home with this money? It was like $4 or whatever. And I had to, I have these little drawings, and I would just draw Looney Tunes and like, totally copyright infringement. but I was always hustling, right? The point is where I'm getting at is I'm not talking about me. I'm trying to talk about the fact that I just basically would make sure that I was just present, that I was just at least bringing a standard to the game that was above average. That was it. Just showing up, communicating. So like you just said, hey, call me, like I'll help you, which is just the sweetest thing you could say. But I will tell you in advance, you're going to be wasting your time, because if these people aren't even picking up the phone to message guests, they've already checked out. Let them die.
On that
Fair.
On that point, do you guys know how much more revenue a superhost gets versus a non-superhost? Do you guys happen to know?
I don't know that stat. Is it like 20% or something?
Yeah, I read it somewhere, and it might not be exact, but 15% of hosts are superhosts, and they get on average 24% more revenue.
Yeah.
So, just the basics of being responsive, being hospitable, going the extra mile just to accommodate your guests, it will reflect in your ROI. So it just blows my mind, like you said, that some people don't even do the most basic fundamental things expected from a host.
And let me just tell everybody who's thinking about becoming a host, if you research what it takes to become a super host and you feel like that's intimidating or you can't achieve that, this is not your industry. That bar is not that high. It's not.
Not at all. It's even lower on VRBO.
Oh, is it really?
To be a premier host, it's even easier to be a premier host on VRBO than it is to be a super host on Airbnb. But that's a great point. If you are already looking at super host status and be like, that's hard, then just stop. Don't even.
Not for you.
Or hire a property management company.
Sure.
Do your diligence. Yeah. Make sure you run your numbers good enough so you could afford to have property management. And that way you can really check out, but still offer a solid experience. We actually utilized property management in the very beginning. And I think that was a huge factor as to why I manage all of our short-term rentals. We all have our own unique roles in the business. And I was essentially a student. I mean, I'm a lifelong student of real estate, short-term rentals, just life in general. But I truly studied our property managers. I studied how they communicated. I studied how they responded. I studied how they wrote listing descriptions. And I learned, this is how you manage properties. And then eventually, after a few months, then we realized, hey, I could totally do this. We could take it on our own. But that's smart.
That's smart, man. Yeah, because they communicate on your behalf on the platform, so you can see how they do it. That's brilliant.
Correct. So I shadowed the pros for as long as I could. And anytime the messages would come in, I would just take a look and be like, oh, wow. Or someone would ask a question. I'd be so nervous, right? When you first have your first short-term rental, like I was checking the cameras every few hours.
Yeah.
Checking our calendar every few hours. I was like looking at everything they would say, but I learned from them, and it was amazing. And so if folks do not want to manage themselves, they don't have the time, there's plenty of property management companies that are now co-hosting. Co-hosting is huge, right? Like junior property managers. And there's a whole industry of individuals who are looking to co-host other people's properties as well. So you don't have to take it on and do all the work yourself.
Do you guys want another pro tip?
Please.
I don't know if you guys do this already, but David just launched a email campaign. He collected email addresses from all past guests, and he has them on a drip email campaign, inviting them back for direct booking, and with discounts and different suggestions for activities in the area. And it's a direct booking link to all of our properties. Capture those emails, extend the lifetime value of that customer.
Wow.
And you're going to start to really see more results on the direct booking side. So he just launched that. Collect email addresses if you guys can.
And our rentals are not hurting. I just told you guys the average occupancy rate in Joshua Tree and our average occupancy rate. But again, these are just things that I'm doing to stay ahead of the competition. Yep. I'm obsessed with real estate. I'm obsessed with short-term rentals. I love listening to as many people talk about it as I can.
Hey.
This is one thing that I heard was, hey, there's a huge shift to direct booking. So how do we get people on direct booking? And the email campaign has been a phenomenal way. It took me, I don't know, maybe a total of 4 hours, maybe 5 hours to set everything up. I used ChatGPT to do a majority of the writing for me. And I just went in there and edited, but ChatGPT got it 80% done. So in addition to letting our past guests know about the discounts and the type of properties we have in our portfolio, I also find key things about Joshua Tree. So like the summertime is a great time to view the Milky Way galaxy. So I have an email that's like 5 tips for viewing the Milky Way in Joshua Tree. And at the end, my call to action is, hey, check out our direct booking link and then book with us. As a matter of fact, here's a coupon code for 10% off for being a returning guest. So again, these things that we do to constantly run this like a true business.
That is brilliant on so many levels. And the business major over there on your right side, I'm sure she's contributing. Like as a business owner, I'm like, yeah, that checks every box. That's amazing. Like you're like, cool. How can we provide more value to get value from them and 15% off? My question to you is, and maybe I've only been doing it for a year. I think I'm pretty damn good at it, but I've never seen an email come through. How are you capturing the emails?
Yeah, so there's a few ways, but my primary way is through our property management software. I use Hostfully, and so Hostfully has something called, and a lot of different property management platforms are starting to do this. They have something called a pre-arrival form or like a rental conditions form, and this form is to be completed before the guests receive their check-in instructions. On that form, I ask for people's emails. I just ask them. I say, hey, please list the name and email of every single guest who's staying. And then I have my VA at the end of each week just go through. He reviews all those forms, adds all those contacts to our CRM, and then puts them in the correct pipeline to see where they're at, whether that's a pre-stay, the actual stay itself, or post stay. Once the guests are moved over to post stay, then that triggers the automatic email campaign to start. And our past guests receive a total of 12 touches over a 9-month period.
And there's Wi-Fi networks that collect that kind of thing too?
Yeah, so the second one is StayFi. StayFi is like a third-party company that you'd sign up for. And essentially, it's like Wi-Fi management. So anytime anyone wants to sign on to the Wi-Fi, they'll be prompted to input their information, much like Starbucks or much like Hilton or Hyatt or something like that. So guests are used to this. It's not, the pre-arrival form is a little different. I do get a little pushback, if I'm being quite honest. Guests saying, well, why do I have to fill out this information? Or, why do I have to input my government ID? I'm already a verified individual, right? So I do get a little pushback. So if I'm being quite honest, I think StayFi would be the way to go, but there is a cost associated with that. So to keep our costs down, I elected to go with the pre-arrival form for now, as opposed to StayFi. But StayFi is another amazing option to capture all guests' email because everyone's going to want to use the Wi-Fi.
And what is StayFi?
It's a third-party company that you sign up for, and it integrates with your Wi-Fi. So anytime any guest wants to sign on for the Wi-Fi, they'll be prompted via their web browser to input their name and email address, and then click I agree to the terms of conditions of using this Wi-Fi or whatever.
Gosh, you should start getting sponsorships. All these companies.
I know.
I actually just started. Like the referral programs with all these different companies.
Nice.
I email them and I'm like, hey, I'm a user of your guys' platforms, your guys' software. I use them daily. Here are some things that I think can be improved on. And believe it or not, sometimes they will contact me back and I'll sit down on a Zoom with their product development people for 30 minutes, an hour. She does the same thing.
Host GPO actually did it with us.
And we'll go through it and we'll say, hey, these are the things that I love. These are things that help me out as a business owner, but you guys can really improve on this, this, and this. And so after doing that, then they'll contact me and be like, hey, this was really cool. Do you want a referral link? And I'm like, hell yeah, I want a referral.
There we go. Money on money. Yes.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, send me those referral links. I'll definitely use it, especially with anything you mentioned. I definitely am excited looking at Host GPO as we're like in escrow, closing soon on a duplex. Lucid Mattress I've made a note of, StayFi. I'm going to look into, so I use Hospitable. I'm going to look into that, see what I can do. It might even suffice to even just maybe have like an automated message just to ask them, hey, I don't know if Airbnb might frown on that, but I guess if you word it well enough, you can say, hey, send us your email, or maybe I leave a form there that my cleaner can collect each time that has an email list or something. I use Hospitable. Yeah.
Yeah, from what I understand, Hospitable does have a pre-arrival form option.
Cool.
So look into that. Message Hospitable. Ask them. Be like, hey, how can I collect guest email before? I also ask for guest IDs as like a pre-screening measure, right? Because the way I see it, you need to show an ID if you're getting on a plane. You need to show an ID if you're renting a car. So if you're going to rent my home, then I want to see your ID. And people, again, they kind of fight me on that. Not fight me, but they question me. They say, hey, how come I need to show my ID? And I just remind them exactly what I just said now. Just, I need multiple ways to protect ourselves. And as you may or may not know, California has some loose laws regarding tenants. And so I just ask that everybody please provide this. Thank you so much. Smiley face. Always smiley face.
Always. Yeah.
Always smiley face. Another one, you mentioned mattresses. The Helix Hospitality mattress is another very affordable mattress
through Host GPO
that you get through Host GPO, and people literally leave it in the comments regularly. Like the mattresses are amazing. Mattresses are amazing.
We use those at our Palm Springs hotel, and we actually stayed in them, and they're very, very nice, especially for the price. You get a massive discount.
Yeah, but ask Hospitable about the pre-arrival form. Don't do it through Airbnb, because Airbnb actually blocks you from sending emails. So like I'll ask a guest, or sometimes a guest, they'll be pretty privy and they'll be like, hey, what do I get? I get like, hey, are there any other options, for booking this, right? Guests are starting to get pretty smart and they're starting to be aware that there's
especially other hosts. I get that from other hosts a lot.
Yes.
All the time.
Our thing is we don't have that extra. I like that air cover. It's like, like it's $1 million policy. I like that. So I sleep at night knowing that no matter what. But do you guys have separate coverage on all your listings? So if you go around that, you're still covered. How does that work?
Separate coverage? No, I mean, just our standard like vacation rental policies, really. And I know there are options for adding additional insurance per stay, but there's a cost associated with it. We don't opt into that now, but I mean, we don't really add anything else.
No, so I toyed around with the idea a little bit. And so there are other companies out there that offer additional protection. One of the companies I was looking at, I forget the name of it. They're all kind of have similar names in the hospitality industry now, but it was just a little difficult because in order to like insure us for a little over $1 million, I think it was 1.125. There was a cost associated with that, right? And it was quite expensive. And so I would have had to figure out a way to divide that cost amongst all of the guests that month. And so I'll revisit this to see if they have a little bit easier way to do it. But it was just an added layer. It was more work for me. So I was like, you know what? We're okay with our existing policies. And then we're okay with air cover as well.
Got it. So if you do decide to launch into this, like just purely through your email, your own marketing, if you will, you guys are covered if someone like falls into a hole and like snaps their ankle or something. You guys are covered.
Yeah, that's homeowners policies that typically for like a vacation rental policy, which by the way, you want it to be specifically a vacation rental policy. Right. You have like things like premises liability, general.
You have it. Okay.
Yeah. And also if you have it in LLC, get umbrella insurance, all those extra things to cover you for really any incident.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. If you guys have a particular insurance provider, let me know.
I'll introduce you to my favorite broker.
Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
Vince,
I just realized we've been.
How you guys, sometimes people go on tangents. You guys are on such a tangent. We're on Mars right now.
Sorry. Yeah.
It's like, so I'm going to bring it back to something because I still want to get to your story and, so people can follow, because this is like very advanced stuff you guys are talking about. Like people are going to be like, bro, you guys talking about how to buy $10 million of real estate. I need to buy one. Right. So I wanted to go back to, but great points though. Is really useful especially for Drew and people who are already in the business will be really interesting. And also people who are not in it will kind of realize like, okay, this is really, complicated and you might want to partner with someone. So I wanted to ask you on your structure. So did you structure based on debt or equity in the beginning? And do you have either?
For all of our acquisitions, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was always debt,
Okay.
We would always structure it. We would buy our properties distressed always because we love the value add. We love the discounted price point. So we would buy our properties hard money, gap with private money, so all debt. And then in some recent cases, we started to offer some equity on the cash flow side. So let's say we kept a private money lender on board, maybe we refied, we keep them in the deal. Now we're offering a percentage of the cash flows, right? So more recently, we started to do some more equity and like JV type stuff, but majority of the time it's been debt. And the reason for that is because if we're structuring the deals correctly, we can, pretty much keep that equity in house and really preserve our wealth for as long as possible. But also, being open to an opportunity to JV with people where we think there's a lot of value in the partnership. Like we like to be very selective about who we work with, because as you know, a partnership is a marriage, right? But we are recently starting to do that. The hotel is something that we partnered with a new group, and it's been awesome. So we're definitely open to partnerships in the future.
And then for the then when you do equity, do you just put them on title as tenants in common? How do you guys add them?
Typically, we haven't purchased any properties like with tenants in common or anything that's sharing actual title or ownership of the property. It's more on the profit share side. So,
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we literally, one of our partners is like, I don't want to own property in California. I'd like the cash flow. I'll stay in on that, but they don't want to have anything to do with the actual ownership in the property. So we haven't actually purchased a deal where we're sharing in the equity, other than the hotel. On the single family side, it's really been more on the profit share that we're bringing in partners.
That is very interesting because you guys are going to get a huge tax benefit, and they're going to get taxed as hell because you're going to give them 1099s or K1s, right? So they will not have any depreciation to offset any of their income. And for you, it is a big benefit. Plus, you get to keep the equity upside. So it's very different than the models that Drew and I do, where we only do equity-based partnerships.
And they're able to pull it off, though, because of the cash flow.
Because of the cash flow,
yeah. So, I mean, I would love to keep all of the equity of our deals and just have so much cash flow where you're just like, hey, take it.
Yeah.
But that was what is that? Sorry, Amanda.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like you guys mentioned, we also only partner with very close people and friends and family. Basically, like Drew's mom, my sister. So we don't mind sharing our equity. So because it's all family for us. So that's
friends, but
very
typically,
close friends,
as of late, especially for this last two deals now, this one restaurant and the last one closed, it's been like people have been coming to our meetups, who have been coming for a year or more, who really, we built a relationship with, and we can kind of test them, and we know that they're legitimate and they're great people, and because it's a marriage, it's a partnership, and who you partner with is huge, So.
Yeah. And one thing that I will say that we've learned is, however you structure your partnerships, but especially with profit share, you want to have a term built into your agreement. You don't want that partnership to be in perpetuity. You want to be able to buy them out or end the partnership, recapture that equity or that cash flow for yourself. So always have a term, whether that's 1, 2, 3 years, where you check in and you're like, okay, is this a mutually beneficial relationship? Do they want to exit the deal? Do we want to buy them out? Do we want to cash out, refi, pay them off, recapture everything, right? You want to make sure that there is a term in your agreement, because some people, we've talked to friends who have forgotten about that part and like, oh shoot, they have 50% of cash flows in perpetuity and we didn't really build anything into the agreement where we have a termination point, right? So just something to keep in mind there as well.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Always have an exit strategy.
You always have an exit. Based on, Drew and I's situation, because we really like partnerships. So he's very heavily involved with all the operations. He's the guy. I don't even know the lock to get into my back of my house, which is an Airbnb he runs. I don't even know. So that's how involved I am in operations. And I do most of the acquisitions and like bigger picture stuff. So I wanted to ask you guys, like, what is the individual strengths that you guys bring?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think we knew our individual strengths from the beginning and we stuck to those as best we could. And I think that's that system is what helped us to really scale. So on the flipping side, I was in charge of marketing, lead generation, because I come from an anthropology background. So I love talking to people. I had interview experience before, being able to ask people questions, being able to build relationships and trust with people. So I was great for the marketing and lead generation side.
Yeah, and I have an engineering and a business background, so the acquisitions and finance side really made sense for me. So I really leaned heavily into our team's underwriting, our offer process, raising all of the capital, structuring all of our deals, our financing, getting them to close. And then our third partner, Oscar, happens to have a 10 plus year background in construction management. So he was mostly on the commercial side, managing multi-million-dollar projects. And naturally, he became pretty much our project manager. He was overseeing all of our renovations. And then, if there was a sale, he would oversee our sales process, oversee our agents. And then when we started adding short-term rentals to our portfolio, David has a little bit of property management experience, and he became the natural kind of option to start managing our properties. And obviously it was a great decision because he's crushing it. Yeah. So that's how we flow. That's the very distinct roles and responsibilities.
That's awesome, guys. I want to hit how you went from 4 units to the hotel. But before that, I wanted to ask you guys, for us, the biggest benefit has come from growing is from talking to different people, like going to Fortune Builders or Bigger Pockets and like RPM with Amy, all those things. So how do you think that has affected your perspective in the business? Because it's not easy for engineering. Like I'm an engineer too, like Amanda. So I still have my day job. It's every day I spend time with the engineers. It's they live in a different, world. So I want to hear your story of how meeting these people has changed your perspective in the business.
Yeah, you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
So for me, Vince, it shows me what's possible, right?
Yeah.
Like being able to connect with people on a personal level and physically hear them and meet them and shake hands with people who are like, yeah, I own this. Yeah, I bought this. And then even in the beginning, going to networking events and things like that, I was a little bit shy at first, right? Like what value do I have to bring to these people? So I would listen a lot. And I would listen to these people talk about these deals. And I was like, my gosh, this is possible. Like if these guys are doing it, these guys are taking down these deals, then we can too. So for me, it was the proximity to individuals who are already in real estate was huge. It was powerful. And then that really just changed my mindset to, again, show us that we can do this. We can totally do this.
Yeah, seeing it's possible is nice. It's reassuring. Like this guy's doing it. He's younger than me, Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And I think for me, it was about compressing time. Right? Like what we would have learned on our own over 10 years, we probably compressed into 2, 3, or 4 years because of the programs that we signed up for, because of the people we were exposed to, the systems that they shared with us, right? I'm going to give you an example. We were doing very, very little in 2020. We were still learning real estate. We were getting deals, but we didn't know how to fund them. We joined RPM, shout out to Amy. We joined her program and she put systems in place for us. We compressed that time, that learning curve. And between that, I think October of 2020 and the following May, we raised $1 million in gap funding. So just having access to those systems where people already know how to do it successfully really, really catapulted our business and just really allowed us to do unlimited deal flow. So just like being around these people and getting exposure to their systems and what works for them, it's just really about compressing time and scaling so much faster.
Yeah, we're really coachable. Like if you tell us what to do, we'll do it, right? And so being in these programs, being in proximity to mentors, to other individuals in the space, other individuals doing deals that we wanted to do, again, we would just listen. What are they doing? And then emulate what they would do. So our mentors would give us a list of things to do and we'd go out and do it. And it's paid off. So since October 2020, we've raised a little, just almost $3.5 million in private capital to date.
That's crazy.
What was the biggest takeaway that you guys learned from Amy that you were able to raise $3.5 million in like 3 years?
Honestly, and it may sound so simple, but it's so key, is I was doing a lot of the capital raising for our team, and I was learning a lot of the systems up front. The most important thing was building confidence. If you demonstrate that confidence with a prospective private money lender, that really, really goes a long way. Preparation is always going to outpace the fear, right? So having those systems in place, knowing what to say, how to structure a deal, what paperwork to give to a lender, what to say during a presentation, all of those things are building confidence to get in front of more people. And the more people you get in front of, the higher chance you have of converting them to a private money lender. So literally I think the common thread was having the confidence to approach more and more people, and also learning how to reach them in a very, very creative way. That's what I love about Amy. It's not her program's not like very, very cookie cutter in how you raise money. She has a very, very cool and creative approach to how you reach more people to grow your business and grow your private money lender list.
So we share an office, right? Like we're next to each other all the time. And so she's been the primary capital raiser. So she was constantly doing these presentations, presenting to people
hundreds of times
in multiple languages, right? She even found a translator and got a presentation done in Cantonese, I believe it was. And we ended up securing that person for a couple $100,000, which is pretty cool. But for me, one thing that I realized after hearing her present over and over and over and over again was, we're not asking anybody for anything. We're truly presenting opportunities for individuals to earn a crazy good returns that they're not getting elsewhere. And at first I had heard this, right? Amy teaches us, you don't ask for anything. You're providing opportunities. But it didn't really click with me until we had done a few deals and until we started paying private money lenders back their interest for literally doing pretty much nothing but a few clicks and filling out some information and signing a check afterwards. So for me, the biggest flip was, we don't ask anyone for anything. All we do is present opportunities for individuals to earn double-digit returns backed by real estate with a protected, secured, and insured asset. Who wouldn't want that opportunity, right? Like that's our mindset now, is like, we know exactly what we could provide for folks. And that for me gives me the confidence to go out and talk to individuals and go out and raise money, because like I said, I truly believe in what we're doing.
So I know Amy's big thing is not using friends and family. So who are these people? Just taxi drivers, people you meet at Whole Foods, everyone?
Yeah, it's the number. They come from everywhere. I actually think friends and family is a really great place to start, because you have your first tier network and then your second and third. A lot of times your first tier network, like friends and family, are going to be introducing you to a much broader second tier network. Mm-hmm. And usually that's where we get a ton of our private money lenders, right? So we have private money lenders who family, friends, old coworkers, complete strangers. A big part of our business now comes from referrals. And that's from other people who trust and know our process, and they refer private money lenders to us. And by the way, we pay finder's fees, right? So
I was just going to ask, is there an incentive program?
Nice. Yeah, we offer finder's fees as a thank you for helping us grow our business, right? So that's a huge incentive for people. Our current private money lenders refer people to us too, because they love lending with us. They see us paying them after every deal. They love our systems. They love working with us. So, the way I see raising private capital is you market for them, for private money lenders. You work on converting them. And the other two parts that a lot of people forget is the retention. You want to work on retaining them and then referring. You want to get your current private money lenders to start referring business to you. Though people forget the last two steps, and those are really important, because that's just going to keep the private money lender list growing and growing much faster.
Yeah. Again, really, you guys are echoing really sound, like, business principles, even though this is a real estate discussion, it's real estate business. That's great. You guys are tight as a drum.
I'm going to assume that you guys already had a bunch of money lined up even before you were confident enough to go into the hotel, or how did you guys do that?
Yeah, I want to know.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. By the way, we never actually looked to get into a hotel. We're just planning on growing our short-term rental portfolio. But we met our business partners. Shout out to them. They're awesome. We met them actually through the short-term rental space in Joshua Tree. And they approached David with an opportunity to get into this hotel and partner. And the reason for that is they're amazing on the property management operations side and branding and marketing. And they saw our skills on the front end, right? Raising capital, managing design and construction. So they brought us into this deal, and we're thinking like, how are we going to do a hotel deal? $3 million purchase. This is unlike anything we've ever done. How the hell are we going to do it? So for us, it was a massive leap, but it made sense to do it. And people have asked us, why are we moving from short-term rentals to hotels? And there's really two reasons. It's regulations and scalability. Regulations in the commercial space are very different. And now we're scaling so much faster. Obviously, we have the efficiency of multiple properties, multiple units with one single property, right? So that's what helped us kind of segue into the commercial space. And it's been really, really interesting. I will say we definitely underestimated. We thought it was just going to be one big short-term rental. It's not quite that. It's so much more, but we pulled a lot of our expertise from the short-term rental space into the hotel space. And we're very, very happy with the final product.
Yeah. And we raised a little over $1 million debt to get into the deal. So we didn't have a bunch of cash just laying around to throw it at a hotel. I mean, eventually that's what we will have. We will have a ton of cash so we could park it in these different assets. But we just used the same methodology that we had been doing before with purchasing properties, distressed assets, adding a ton of value in them, and then refinancing and launching them as a short-term rental, or in this case, a hotel. It was essentially the same thing, except rather than it being a single family home, it was now a 10-key boutique hotel with an extra comma and a couple of extra zeros.
Yeah. Why people ask why debt versus equity? Most people maybe would have tried to syndicate something this large, but we said, hey, you know what? If the deal allows us to structure the construction funds as debt, right? We will keep all of the equity in-house, all the control, and we don't have to really worry about any investor relations other than obviously our private money lenders. Then let's do it, right? And it worked. So we closed with a commercial bridge loan, about 75%, 72%. And then we raised the construction fund, all of our interest and holding costs from private money lenders, about $1.1 million. So the plan is when we're refining this year, we pay them all off. Equity is 100% ours.
That's awesome. Wow, great play. What were some of the growing pains? I'm kind of interested. I can already probably guess some, but what were some of the we didn't see that coming? It's from SFRs, rentals to the 10-unit, one building. Obviously, your team has to expand, your cleaners and stuff, but what else? Some of those things.
I think the biggest growing pain specifically for the hotel was just hotel operations. We originally thought, okay, let's get this 10-key boutique hotel and we'll throw it up on Airbnb and folks can just buy out this whole hotel. But as we were going through and, rehabbing it, we realized, especially our partner realized hey, we can have a much better product if we treat it like a true hotel, which that brings in food and beverage, that brings in daily turns, which is something that we're not used to in the short-term rental space, right? So for me, the biggest kind of growing pains were just realizing what it takes to actually operate a hotel. Our partner and I think we looked at towels for probably about 4 hours, just towels. Literally researching how many towels do hotels need? How do they wash them? What kind of quality of the towels were, right? So the biggest thing was really just the operations of a hotel and learning that whole side of things, what food and beverage can do, what concierge can do. That was a totally different ballgame for us.
And on the front end where, that's my wheelhouse, the financing and the underwriting is very different. Commercial type loans versus a single family loan, it's very, very different. You're going from a valuation using sales comparisons to now looking at cap rates. What's your projected NOI? It's a very, very different way to underwrite a loan different requirements, liquidity, credit, credit scores. They're looking at what's your experience as sponsors of the deal. It's very, very different compared to the short-term rental side, right? Insurance requirements, very, very different. So all of these things really opened up our eyes to how the commercial space works. And now we're hopefully using that experience to now apply it to much larger deals moving forward.
How are the numbers on those deals? I know like for hotels, since it's hospitality, sometimes the lenders don't like NOI cap rate. So they like to do like the gross rent multiple because the expenses are really high. How do they do that?
Well, on the acquisition, the appraiser used like 3 different approaches for valuation. They use the property wasn't operating at the time, so they couldn't go off of like any NOI or history. But they use a sales approach, and then they use a cost approach, right? Okay. So they had a kind of a mixed approach to how they value the property. They valued it at $3.4 million. We bought it at $3 million, so that was a great sign. But going into a refi, I do think that we're starting to build revenue. We're starting to build that income history. So now they can trend more towards either more of like a cap rate approach, right? In Palm Springs, cap rates are actually between 7.5 and 8.5 for these types of properties, which is really fantastic. So we bought the property for $3 million. We put another like $1 million in with all of our holding costs, and I think we're in all about like 4.2. And based on those cap rates in the area, if we hit our NOI, we're looking at a $6.2 million valuation, which would be fantastic.
Which would mean we would create essentially was like $2.8 million in equity.
Thin air. And how much time?
Less than a year.
Oh my God.
That just beats all of ours.
I'm depressed.
Yeah.
We're talking about scalability, right? This is why we went into the boutique hotel space, because we saw the possibilities with scaling, and we knew our skills in the short-term rental industry were transferable into the boutique hotel space because it's hospitality.
And you guys can run the business even with the high 7-8% interest rate. They're going to want like 50% LTV, all that garbage too.
Yeah. And that's one thing we learned, right? We didn't know this, but conventional loans in the hospitality space, it's very common to see max 55% LTV, which we didn't know. We were expecting so much higher. There's things like SBA loans that go up to 90 or 80%. But that's actually a challenge we're having right now, is refining this loan in such a crazy interest rate market that, we're almost better off staying in our bridge loan rate, which is, it's high, but it's definitely lower than what we're seeing right now. So it's been a challenge refining right now, but we're really learning like strategies and different ways to structure this type of refinance more creatively, just to keep our rates down and cash flow as much as possible.
Yeah, that's a big growing pain for us right now. Is I try to read up on this as much as I can. There's something like 1.5 billion in commercial loans that's going to need to get refinanced.
It's trillion.
It's now trillion.
It's 1.5 trillion.
Oh my God!
Boy.
See,
yeah.
So, yeah,
1,500 billion. Crazy.
Wow. Yeah. So thank you for correcting me on that. So we're trying to refinance before we get caught in that storm of $1.5 trillion that needs to get refinanced.
It's just a crazy environment because of how the Feds have jacked up the rates, the overnight rates. So so a lot of people who bought bridge loans like beginning of pandemic because it was free, they're going to get hosed in the face like this year and next year and the next year. Yep. Yeah. So a lot of people might lose their proproperties.
Yeah, I know scary. A lot of folks got adjustable rate caps, or they got no rate cap on some of their loans, which is even scarier. Like, luckily, we're not in that situation.
Yeah, we were just talking about that the other day.
Yeah, we were really aggressive going into the the pandemic. We bought all kinds of crazy stuff. But I was just smart enough to get only fixed rate debt for 30 years. I was just like, nah, I don't like these arms in these 2-year. Yeah. I'm like, I know the rates are cheap. I'll just pay that little bit extra and keep it fixed for 30 years. So all of our stuff we don't even have one.
We have 2 arms, but they have a cap on them.
Yeah, so you got the cap, so that's pretty good.
The rates are, what the rates are now. So it worked out, but arms can be helpful in certain situations, but they can be disadvantageous in others. So it's all about the timing and looking what your opportunity cost is.
Well, it's nice. It sounds like you guys are pretty darn good at capital raising. So worst case scenario, you gotta
You can raise capital.
plan B, plan C.
That's funny you say that because we're talking about, all right, let's just pull in a private money lender to come in and refinance our debt, right? Obviously, the rates on this kind of loan have to be lower for us to work. So we just have to find the right person. But yeah, and actually we're in the middle of raising for another massive hotel deal. And it's by far the biggest raise we've ever done. And we're raising about 12.6 million.
Damn.
Yeah. So we're trying to learn like how to raise a different type of capital from a different type of investor, right? So hopefully in all of that raising, we can come across someone who wants to work on our current hotel.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. This $12.6 million raise is for a 107 key hotel. It's a branded hotel that we'll be converting to boutique. And then hopefully add a couple of more doors. So we'll add a total of will be a total of 114 doors. So
I don't even know where to start with this one.
Bro. Do we have another hour and a half?
Yeah. We always say, I get this from one of my mentors, no roses till it closes, but we're actively raising for this. So hopefully we're able to lock it up and get it under contract. And we'd love to chat again. And, 6 months from now, once we have this thing under contract and we're cranking away.
This one's a syndication, by the way, which is our first syndication. So we're learning a lot. Starting all over with the learning process.
Yeah, learning. I like what you said earlier. We're just always learning, always a student. Yeah.
We thought we were smart buying 2 every 6 months. And you're like, we bought 4, 10, and 120.
The goal is to 10x every year, right?
Yeah, that's
for everyone
crazy.
listening, just a reminder, they bought their first deal 3 years ago.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's crazy. We had the one before this, we were talking with Beena Jetty. And then she was saying, $16 million deal is too small for me to look at it. And then me and him are going, dude, our entire portfolio is not even 10 million. She's like, why is she even talking to us? She's like doing us a favor. It's crazy that how.
Yeah, she's raising like 100 million just this quarter, which is insane.
She wants to hit the 1 billion mark,
Yeah, good for her.
She's so cool. She's
the best.
An amazing. When we actually met her a year ago at Clever Summit, and we had a funny story. Someone gave her some ketchup chips, and she was like, "Ketchup chips, like."
These
what
are
the hell?
disgusting.
These are so gross. I don't even like ketchup. And we had just gone to Canada a few months prior to that and ate those ketchup chips. So I was like, hey, I'll take the ketchup chips. So when we saw her again at Amy's event, we reminded her of the ketchup chips. And she's like, oh, you guys are the people that
with
gave the
bad
ketchup
taste.
chips.
Yeah. That's crazy.
The weirdos. Yeah, she was so sweet and so generous with her time and advice, just as you guys are. Thank you so much for your time. I had a blast. I feel like, I want to keep picking your brain, but I definitely will, want to put your listings in our description of everywhere we launch this. So we'll make sure we do that and share, how amazing you guys are doing. I definitely want to schedule something like 6 months from now after you've closed this deal and see what's going on and talk about growing pains.
But forget the 6 months. When are you guys in town next? We'll hang out, have lunch, and we'll take you around our properties, And this is actually my home. So we just have like a one podcast room. So you guys can, welcome to visit.
So cool. Thank you. Yeah, I believe June, we'll be making trips to LA. I think we'll be in there every weekend in June pretty much. So
let's do it. Yeah.
If you want to stay in the OC, your stay is on us, man.
Yeah, just tell us.
Thank you. We'd love
We'll send you that. We'll send them the list. There's like 9 to choose from.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what you
We'd
got.
love to. We'd be honored.
Yeah,
gentlemen.
thank you, guys.
apart, bro. Help me out.
Yeah, you pick up the you give him a couple of pointers and your reward is free stay for the weekend.
That's the deal. I'll do that deal all day.
Yeah.
Oh,
Be
dude.
careful what you ask for.
Yeah, I'll tear it up. I'll give you a report, bro. I'll send you a message.
Like ready.
He's like, this is a fail.
No, I'm sure they're great, guys.
No,
yeah.
they're probably amazing.
And congrats on all your success too. I think the similar timeline is very, very cool to hear. And it just goes to show for the audience what is possible starting in such a short period of time, right? And when you have that momentum, ride it all the way, like keep going with it.
And, speaking of these events and whatnot, I mentioned proximity, being in proximity to powerful people. Like that's how we met, right, Vince? Like you were at the event And I was like, why is this dude's last name Hernandez? He looks
Rodriguez, yeah, same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
And we had a great chat, bro. And like, I'm so grateful, to meet you. And we're so grateful to be guests on the show. I think what you guys are doing is incredible. So it's an absolute honor. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. How do people get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, Instagram is honestly the easiest way. So I'm at David J. Fornelli, Fornelli.
Mine is _Amanda Fornelli _. Yep.
Wow, she went with the underscore just to make it complicated.
Yeah.
Someone already took my name without underscores, so I was pretty sad about that.
Yeah.
Like that's an engineer move. It's
Yeah.
like underscore.
Underscore.
I
You're smarter.
didn't know what else to use. So anyway.
Yeah, we have link trees in our Instagram, so people can put time on our calendars or see our short-term rentals, direct booking site, whatever.
And check out our hotel. We just launched Yara, YARA, PalmSprings.com. We're super happy with it. Come stay with us. We'd love to host you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I don't know about you, but I definitely like to see 5-star reviews on any service or any product before I purchase. Please take a second to leave us a 5-star review, whether you're listening to it on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify, or whatever platform. Take a second, goes a long way, helps us a lot to grow the channel, and thanks for listening.